Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Rats Get Fat podcast. I am your host, Zuzz.
And I am Jake Straat. For everyone watching at home, hello. How are we?
We are well. We are very well. It's been a long trip and we're glad to be here in the Tat Mecca.
I can't believe we're here.
Dude.
Where are we working out of today, mate?
We are in the famous Tattoo City. And we are joined by none other than Doug Hardy.
Howdy, folks.
Thanks for coming and doing an episode with us, man.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really glad that it's been great. People have been showing up, and it's really nice meeting people, all over the world and stuff.
Say, I don't know. It's so good to be over here. I feel like we saw it from the street, the neon and everything, and like I don't know, I could picture it in my mind the exact moment.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely got that old tattoo shop vibe.
Yeah, my dad always wanted it to still look like a tattoo shop. It's like, that's for sure. There's a, excuse me. There's a lot of shops. Especially late '90s, early 2000s. There's a lot of shops that became more like kind of salons and everything, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but. To me, I love it when there's like flash on the walls and, just
cool
memorabilia and art and, it gives the personalities of the people who work here and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. You can't really fake that shit. You can just, I don't know, soak up the history here.
Yeah.
Because how long's Tattoo City been here?
In this location, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it opened in 1991 over on Columbus Avenue, or like 2 blocks from here. We're on Mason and Lombard, right off of Columbus, which is the main drag through North Beach, Little Italy, Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 8 years there, it moved to this location.
Okay.
Yeah, and this used to be a big comic store.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, it's a pretty important area. I don't know, Lyle Tattle used to be across the road.
Yep.
Just gone now. There's a lot of history in this area.
Yeah. North Beach has been like Chinatown and North Beach are basically Little Italy and Chinatown right next to each other in this area. I consider Chinatown to be the last really old part of San Francisco, but there's still a lot of history here in North Beach. It's in fact, around 10, 12 years ago, these 2 older ladies came in and were asking, "Oh, can we look around?" I was like, "Oh, sure." And after a while, they told us that their uncles used to have a candy store in this location. Mm-hmm. And when Prohibition happened, they started making wine in the basement and selling it to all the neighborhoods, the Italian neighborhoods there and stuff. And then they never got caught. And when Prohibition ended, they retired because they were rich. So.
Yeah. Geez, they would have been swimming in wine.
Yeah.
That's sick, man. Holy. Yeah, there's a lot of history here. I can tell, and I don't know. It's cool that we get to talk to you, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Because how long have you been tattooing for now?
So this is November, the end of November of 2024 when we're recording this. May of this year was my 32nd anniversary.
Yeah. Just a little while.
Yeah, a bit. I'm starting to get the hang of it.
Yeah. That's cool. It's I don't know, I feel like coming from your lineage, you're kind of born to be a tattooer, really.
Yeah, I grew up around art all my life and everything, and it was really interesting, but I did a bunch of regular jobs before I started tattooing. I was worked in a fish market for a bunch of years.
Oh, really?
And then a butcher department at a supermarket. Excuse me. And then a bank and a mutual fund firm doing office work.
No way.
And which made me realize what the fuck am I doing with my life? And Mike Malone, he offered me an apprenticeship in Honolulu, so I packed my stuff and moved. So I was there for 6 years in Honolulu.
Holy. Yeah. Out in the middle of the bloody Pacific, eh?
Yeah.
Being apprenticed under Rollo as well, that's it's a huge, what an honor that is.
Yeah, it was really interesting because Malone to me was like an uncle, because my dad and Malone, I think they met in around 71 or 70, something like that. And so he would, whenever he'd come by and everything, he was great. I was a little hyperactive kid. Hey, Mike, look at this drawing and stuff. And he, instead of going, "Oh, that's nice" and everything, he'd actually "Oh, really? What's this about?" And so he was always really loving and kind and very, very funny. So getting an apprenticeship from him was really great because it wasn't like a total unknown, like, oh gosh, what's this going to be like? He was still strict about a lot of things. Of course, when you go through, you're learning how to tattoo, you can't just fuck around. But he was also in a really, it was in a really great environment and stuff. So,
Did your dad ever, did you ever want to sort of work under your dad or anything?
Well, it was the thing. My dad he never pushed me on tattoos, whether to get one or not get one or anything like that, or get involved or anything like that, because he wanted me to make all my own decisions and everything. And in certain ways, it was a little intimidating, being my father's son when you're, apprenticing and stuff. And it took me a while to just get over the fact, everyone looked at me as oh, Ed's kid and stuff. And that, eventually it just became, oh, that's Doug. So I did want to work with him. We did a couple times at, there was once the Green Bay Convention in Wisconsin. We worked in the same booth together. I think there's one other time, but that was about it. But to me, it was I knew it was working under Malone was great because it was a street shop. And so, there was you learn how to do an eagle or a panther, really well before you start running on doing other things and stuff. Whereas in Tattoo City and my father, it was he was doing big custom work and everything like that. I mean, I'm sure I could have learned certain things under him, but I think for myself, it was a lot better to work at a regular street shop at first. And so you learn all the different, types of tattooing and everything like that, and working on different people on different classes and stuff like that. So I really liked it that way.
Yeah, and it makes more sense. You kind of cut your teeth without all that extra. It's not so much pressure.
Yeah.
I could imagine, being the son of Don Ed Hardy would be great big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And it's a I don't know. It'd be really tricky to sort of follow in that sort of footsteps, I guess.
Yeah, it's I'm not trying to I'm not as accomplished of a tattooist as my father ever was. I mean, he was one of the greatest tattoo artists ever to live in the 20th century or 21st century and everything. His works were so influential, and he was really driven and stuff. And I really love tattoos. I really love doing tattoos, but I don't want to set the world on fire, which he did, and thank God, because it really changed everything for the better.
Yeah.
So I just doing regular tattoos on folks, and he would do that as well. But I really am more of a meat and potatoes guy, like Malone. Mike did amazing tattoos and stuff. He did that first, big Godzilla bodysuit on that guy, Jim Hughes, the Prince from Austin in the 1980s. I mean, stuff like that is really landmark things that had never been done before. And, I'm just glad that I get to do tattoos that I do. You can look at it and say, oh, that's a Doug Hardy tattoo and stuff. So for me, I'm pretty satisfied with that,
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing to sort of, forge your own path.
Yeah.
Without having to, rely on anything else.
Yeah, but it's still, building off of what everyone else has given me, that's for sure. I couldn't have gotten this far without, the help of all these great people in my life and stuff. My father, my stepmother Francesca, Malone, all these people who really, took a lot on, because I'm sometimes a difficult guy and stuff, It's I don't get things. I mean, my first tattoo is oh, it's fucking terrible. It's looks like it was done with a loose 14. It was done with a tight 5 or something like that. It took me a while to really get it and everything, but I had a lot of support, and I'm always going to be grateful for that.
This season of Rats Get Fat is proudly sponsored by Good Guy Supply. Based in Canada, Good Guy Supply has been crafting top-tier tattoo supplies since 2006. Their team relentlessly pursues innovation and expertise, constantly finding new and affordable ways to create their products. Driven by a commitment to premium quality at affordable prices, Good Guy Supply's products meet the highest performance standards. Check them out. You will not be disappointed. A massive thank you to Good Guy Supply for supporting our show. Now back to the episode. Yeah, it's a really tricky thing to kind of grasp and learn, taking tattooing and attempting to be a professional tattooer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking hard. It's the hardest thing you'll ever learn.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just the tattoo itself. It's like, and of course, we all have to learn aseptic technique, how to autoclave stuff and everything, but it's also dealing with people and making them comfortable and doing a weird job, because there's not many other jobs where you go like, hey, how's it going? I'm going to touch you, like, and it's like, hey, take off your shirt and all that. It's,
it's a real hands-on, intimate job.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of people who come in for their first tattoos, and you really have to make them relax and, give them some funny stories sometimes, and, just like make them understand that it's a comfortable place and they can trust you. And in the end, I love it because, you're making these people incredibly happy. Not a lot of jobs do that. You can't come home from the office and go, said, I closed 3 books. And it's like, okay, great. Here's my pile of papers. It's like, I'd rather be hands-on with folks. It's really magic to me.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. You're providing a service that's like, I don't know, can't really be replicated in any other industry the way it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you do a tattoo on someone, it's like the biggest part of their fucking world for, a month, 2 months, sometimes a year, who knows? But yeah, it's really, really important. And every tattoo is different, everyone's need is different.
The other thing is also the experience for them means a lot as well. It's not just the tattoo. They're going to remember, everything about it. There's times where it's like, sailors coming in town, hey, let's get this, boom, boom, years later, who did that? I don't know. But, making sure that they know they had a great experience, like you're making their lives much better for quite a long time.
No, exactly.
It's interesting, on your water bottle, you've got an Ani O'Leary sticker.
Yeah, Ani, I love Ani so much. Ani, they came and stayed with me multiple times. And work here and go to LA and do art shows and stuff like that. And, every so often I'd take a little trip and, she'd watch my cats and everything. Ani is a great person, a great artist. We met on Instagram before it was like this weird, thing that you had to do a video to make anyone notice you and all that. You could just put up your art and it spoke for itself. And I started contacting them, and then finally I got to meet them. I went to a convention in Sydney. I got Ani to tattoo me, and we became really close friends and everything. And yeah, Ani, one of my favorite people in tattooing. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. Australiana. It's interesting, like, like a Australian influence as well to like the Americans.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because like we as Australians, we're very influenced by the US tattooing, and like, if it wasn't for like Don Ed Hardy, like it wouldn't be the way it is in Australia right now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's always, great, like Les Cohen and, all these great artists and stuff there too. It's like, I mean, there's such a rich history in Australia as well. It's like, it's amazing. I mean, that's one of my favorite things. Like everywhere you go where there is tattooing, I mean, it's interesting now because there's a little bit of a flattening, it's like, okay, this style, you used to be able to say, oh, you got that in New York, or you got that, you could see really regional styles. It's a little bit flattening because there's certain, like, not motifs, but really, like, there's certain oeuvres within tattooing. Like, this person does great, black and gray tattoos and stuff, and they're all over the world. But I think there's still a big strength that every place you go, maybe someone will say, like, yeah, I do, like, quote unquote, traditional Americana and stuff, but they still have their own spin that is still regional and everything. I really like that, See it in Japan a lot too, everything. And Australia is no different,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely there's always been like pockets of different like styles of tattooing, especially with traditional, because it's so like it's something that's so distinct to everyone.
Yeah,
everyone has their own take on it. But yeah, I guess with Instagram and everything, it's kind of like everyone's drawing influence from not just what's around them, but all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I mean, that's been happening with the internet a long time. Like, who is it? I mean, I can see sometimes a lot of people a lot of tattooists, I mean, they find that understandably disappointing, because it's like, it's a subculture, and subcultures are kind of melding and becoming their own thing and stuff like that. There's what's that shitty fashion brand, Balenciaga. One of the main designers behind it just said a bunch of years ago, it's like there are no more subcultures. It's like it's all a big thing, and I can understand in certain ways that's true, but there's still a lot of subcultures within tattooing. Anime tattoos are huge now. There's these artists like Corey Benny in Osaka, Jose Morales, cheeseburger champion on Instagram, just doing these just mind-blowing tattoos that you would have never seen 10, 15, 20 years ago at all. Like, it would have been like, what? Who's, how? I mean, that's just one example. I mean, there's so many great things that I think that the genres are really expanding, and I personally really love it because a lot of people are doing things that just no one would have expected. There's a lot more voices in tattooing now.
Yeah.
And it's not just, us old white dudes doing the same old thing anymore. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an interesting and a really cool perspective on it, because a lot of people are like quite upset that it's like tattooing's exploded and the masses are doing it, and it's like just a regular part of society now. Like, there's a lot of people, especially people who have been in the industry for a long time, who really enjoyed when it was like super kind of gate kept and like really, really secretive.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
And there is an appeal to that. I mean, let's be honest. We all have our things that are like, me and my friends know about this, and no one else does. It's fun, But I think we're, good comes with the bad, and I think there's a lot more good right now.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Can we talk a little of the history of the shop?
Yeah.
I mean, sure. The the original Tattoo City was opened up in 1977 in the Mission District, which is kind of like the heavy Hispanic district here in San Francisco. And my dad opened it with the intention of doing like real cholo black and gray fine line tattoos. Freddie Negretti was there for a while, and I'm blanking on some of the other artists, but it was really geared towards that, and it really made a huge impact. But it lasted less than a year because just like this place, there was apartment buildings upstairs above it, and a guy was pissed off at his girlfriend and set her apartment on fire.
Oh, fuck.
And so welp. And then my dad had Realistic, so he just kept that open and everything. And then I don't know when he planned it, but in 1991, he reopened Tattoo City here in North Beach. And it was really interesting. It was like a lot of great artists like Igor Trecht and Nala Smith and Dan Higgs. Freddie and Dan were working at Realistic at the time. And it was just a neat, to have for my dad to have a street shop again. I mean, it's still custom and everything like that, but you could still come in and there was flash and everything as well. And then it was 91 to 98, or 91 through 98, and then early 99 it moved into this location. So it's been 25 years here in this spot.
And it's closing up in December, the end of December?
Yeah, the December 29th is our last day. Unfortunately, my father has Alzheimer's, and it's, of course, progressively, progressed. And, it was he and my stepmother, Francesca, have always run this place. And now it's just, she's taking care of everything for him and the shop, and, everyone's getting older as well. And it's just really too much for her to be able to do everything still. So, the lease is coming up, and we just decided that, it's just time, So, it's a lot,
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah.
We've sort of made the venture from Australia. As soon as we saw it was happening, we kind of thought, let's plan a trip and let's get out here and see Tattoo City before it's no longer a thing.
Yeah.
What are your plans,
I've still got to get over some of my anxiety and talk to other tattoo shops in the area. I don't plan to leave the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm hopefully going to be tattooing. Finding a home to tattoo at. I know there's a couple places I know I can sit in with appointments and such, but I really need to find a home base. Everything. So yeah, I mean, all my father and stepmother are here in San Francisco. My mom's down in Santa Monica, kind of near Los Angeles and everything. Basically, the majority of my family are here in California. I mean, I have some cousins and aunt and uncle in Colorado, but that's it, you know. And this is my hometown. I don't want to leave. You know, I love it here. You
Of
know?
course, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I really love it.
It's
you
a
know.
good part of town too.
Oh yeah, this is great. You know.
Yeah, it's insane for tattooing here as well. It's just like going around and I don't know, seeing all these shops and like
There's some amazing tattoo
Oh,
artists in this
man.
city. It's like, you know, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you come to San Francisco. Okay, sometimes someone will come in. We're just too busy to take care of them. But I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know what? You should go to this shop over there because you'll get a really good tattoo. You know, it's like, especially like people are coming. Oh, we're only here for a few days or something. I think it's. I like the fact that I can do that. You know, as opposed to like, oh, you go over there, and, you know, oh, this piece of shit. You know, it's like, it's really nice to be able to do that. No one's really competing with each other. We all do our own thing and stuff. You know, it's like, yeah, competition per se and stuff, but it's like, what's great is that, I mean, there's just a lot of great tattooists out here. You know, I love that.
This season of Rats Get Fat is sponsored by Industry Tattoo Supply. In this day and age of e-commerce, we've never had so many options right at our fingertips. This also extends to tattoo supplies. And with so many options comes a choice, whether to buy from global entities or to support local businesses. This is where Industry comes in. They're an Australian family-owned business who pride themselves on taking care of not only individual artists, but the community as a whole. They'll supply you with both quality products and quality information. If you'd like to find out more about the ways Industry is supporting local artists, be sure to check out their website, as well as their YouTube channel. Links to both can be found in the description. Thanks to Industry Tattoo Supply for sponsoring the show. Now back to the episode. It's good to support each other as well. And like, you know, people appreciate that. We always try to, you know, send people to other shops in our area as well if we don't have the time to tattoo them.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta be able to give back.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will, you know, who you do that with, they'll come back later and get a tattoo anyway. You know, it's like, oh, that was great. I really appreciate it. And, you know, again, it's that positive mindset instead of like, I mean, you know, I've been at this 32 years. I mean, you know, there was times where I was an idiot. It was like, oh, fuck those guys and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's just I'm tired of that negative, you know, rock stars, you know, chest pounding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It
Doesn't make any sense.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's no need for it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, your strength as an artist is, you know, what people see. And, you know, it's like, you know, I'm not going to attempt certain things that I'm not good at. You know, it's like, I'm not going to say I'll do a nice portrait of, you know, your kid or something. I'll do a portrait of your cat that looks like a tattoo, you know, it's like, that's more my angle and stuff. So,
Sure.
Yeah. You know.
That's cool, man. Yeah. So how long were you out? Was it Honolulu?
Yeah, I was in Honolulu at China Sea Tattoo, which was originally Sailor Jerry's shop. And when he passed on, Malone bought it and took it over as per Jerry's wishes. He said either Malone or my father or Zico, and he wanted one of them to buy it. My father was in Japan at the time. He didn't even know Jerry passed until after he got back. And Zeke had his own shop, Ace Tattoo, in San Diego, and he had no reason to leave. So Mike took it over. So it was this little shop, 9 by 19 feet for the entire shop, waiting area, and an area for two of us to tattoo. I was right-handed, so I had an area like this with a sink. Malone was right there. The area with a sink is left-handed. And it was this tiny little place, and it was in Chinatown, Honolulu. And back then, I mean, I've heard it's gentrified a bit, but back then it was pretty fucking sketchy. It was not a tourist area anymore or anything, barely. You know, I mean, nothing dangerous, but it's like a lot of drug fiends and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, well, you know. So it really kind of forced me to go like, oh, okay, you know, and toughen up a bit and stuff. But yeah, so 6 years in Honolulu. And then, and eventually, like, I really loved working with Mike, and, you know, it was great. But at the same time, as beautiful as Hawaii is, and I totally get why people visit and go, oh, I never want to leave. It's very, very small. And growing up between here and Colorado when I was much younger, it was just one of those things, like, my girlfriend and I would drive for like 3 hours and think, well, there's the ocean again, that's it. So eventually I wanted to move, and a guy I knew was opening a shop with his boss in Minneapolis, and he kind of offered like, well, hey, you want to come try and check this out over here? So I figured, yeah, sure. I went a couple times to visit, and I was like, yeah, this is a nice place, and I'll move here for a couple years. And it turned out that I really fell in love with the area. So I was there for 11 and a half years. So yeah, it was really a big move for me. Luckily, having grown up a little of my life in Colorado, I didn't move from Hawaii to Minneapolis, and then winter comes and what's this cold white shit? This goes away in a week, right? No, I was a bit prepared for it, but it did take some time to acclimate again. Going from a place where, it's like, I think we had a cold snap one of the last months I was there where it was like 68 degrees, like 20 C maybe, and people were like, "Whoa," shivering and stuff.
Yeah,
So then I have to go to a place where it's like 20 below and stuff in winter. And it's like, yeah, it took a little while, but I really liked it.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept moving from Hawaii to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can't think of anything more fucking polarized, eh?
No.
And what a shop to fucking apprentice at too. China
China
Sea.
Sea.
Tattoo.
Yeah, it was really something else. Recently, someone visited and got a tattoo from a guest artist here, and he works at Old Ironsides, which is what China Sea, where the same location and stuff. And it was really fun talking with him. Just saying, he's like, yeah, it's still really small and everything, and just it's just a totally different place from what I've understood. But at the same time, they still keep it as like a really great tattoo shop, and stuff. So
Yeah, it's cool. It's still a tattoo shop, even if it is under different ownership and a different name. But
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
rad. Because who currently owns it? Do you know?
I forget his name because the guy it was two partners, and one of them, this guy Chris, whose name I forget, and basically they spent a ton of money and time to completely renovate it and make it its own shop. They opened, and I think within the first week of it opening, he had a motorcycle accident and died.
Oh wow.
And but his partner's been keeping it going, from what I understand. Like, don't quote me because, I'm not there. I don't know the guys and stuff. But yeah, from what I've heard, a couple people who I know have been there. They're like, oh yeah, they're really cool. It's a great place. I was like, oh good. That's what matters soon.
And they opened that after
Well, Malone closed it in 2000. This is when Malone was closing the shop. It's my dad.
Wow.
Ignore that little date and stuff. And Malone was selling a bunch of books and art and stuff. Just he announced it, and all these tattooists came and did that. And so he closed it, and it was closed for a while. And from what I understood, a few months later, it became kind of a little mom and pop, buy candy bars and sodas place. I don't know how long it was there, but it was shut down by the Hawaiian PD because it was just a front for gambling. And it was shut for a while again, and then another mom and pop place, and that just failed. And then it was empty for a while, and then someone bought it and opened a tattoo shop there. And I knew nothing about it. I heard from some people, it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird and stuff. And from what I understood, like the couple times I was back there when he was there, I never saw it open. So I really don't know what it was like. But someone said basically this guy, Chris, negotiated to buy the place and completely change it to be more of a, classic tattoo shop and stuff.
wow,
It's good.
that's incredible. It's cool that it's still out there doing that thing. They must be laughing.
Yeah.
And working in where Sailor Jerry used to work.
Yeah. I mean, and there's the people behind it. They've also done two big murals on the wall right next to China Sea, one of Jerry and one of Malone, and with like a bit blurb about who they were and what they did and all that. So I saw it a while ago. It's a little. I mean, they're real neat. It's a little strange because Jerry is. In the thing is like real tan, and Jerry was white as a sheet, So it's like, yeah. So it's like my dad was like, yeah, it's really weird they painted him like that. It's like, yeah, I guess. In 2000, when COVID came, we were shut down for 9 months.
Oh, wow.
We were in lockdown in San Francisco. It was really, really serious. So, I mean, at one early on, and you remember it. Like at first, we were all like, what the fuck's going on? Like, do I have to, when I go buy groceries, do I have to wash them and stuff, which we all did, and so we were shut down, and like we even had a curfew in San Francisco between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Unless you were a worker going someplace, it was curfew. You had to be inside and stuff, and
Hectic.
Yeah, it was really wild, and it was eventually like, and I don't know if it was the same for you. Eventually, you got to the point where just time meant nothing. What time of day was it? Who cares? I don't know. So and so I would like, oh, it's dark out. I guess I'll fall asleep now, and like wake up. Oh, it's still dark out. What time is it? At 4 a.m.
Wow.
I'm awake. Whatever. And eventually it got to the point where I was going a little stir crazy. So I would get up, a bit after 4, wash my face, feed my cats. And as soon as 5 a.m. rolled around, I'd walk out and start going for these long walks. And I kind of missed that because it was like a lot of San Francisco was just like a ghost town. Yeah. So I was walking down like big, road arteries here in the city. No one, taking great photos of stuff. Like, I'd never be able to get this photo and stuff. There was even like wildlife, like, I live kind of near the Presidio, which is a big park-like area that used to be the Army base out here a long time ago. And I heard them once, and then some neighbors of mine, some good friends of mine who live like a mile away, said, yeah, we looked out our window, and there's a bunch of coyotes running down the road and stuff. Because they live in the Presidio, but now there's like, oh, there's no people. We'll go, yay, It was funny. It was really great.
That's incredible, hey?
Yeah. So, but I also barely talk to anyone. So I started getting this thing where I was like, I'm not used to talking to people a long time anymore, a bit. It's been a while since we opened up and everything, but I'm still like, get hoarse.
That's fair enough, man. It's no pressure or anything.
Yeah. I just didn't want to make it, It's like Ink Master where you just like splice together stuff, It's like, Dan Smith, I was talking to him years ago about like, because he was on that LA Ink show, and I was like, because there was a couple times I've watched it, and like, there's drama happening. I asked him, it's like, that doesn't sound like you. It's like, and he goes, oh, they'll do splices. I mean, this isn't exactly what he said. Basically, he said, they'll just splice things together to make more drama. So, like, one day they'll film you, because they're filming all the time, and maybe someone says, hey, let's get burritos for lunch. And you're like, oh, man, fuck that. And they'll take that, and someone will say, hey, what do you think of this tattoo? Oh, man, fuck that, and so, yeah, like, because they want drama. It's TV,
Make it entertaining.
Yeah.
Holy.
It's heavy, It's heavy that
so I'm sure you're going to make me like a huge asshole.
For sure. That goes without saying.
Right, our plan is coming through. Doug Hardy, fucker.
So, you were at China Sea for 6 years, and
yeah. So I mean, when I moved there, it was Mike Malone and Scott Sterling were the two main guys, right? And I knew Scott before, somewhat. My dad tattooed him a lot and everything. And so it was them, and occasionally Candy would be there as well, working Candy Everett. And, because she'd do some tattoos there and stuff. And she and Malone, I mean, they're exes, but they were like the best friends ever. I mean, they would make each other they would crack each other up, just constantly throwing jokes and stories and all that. So it was really great. I mean, it was basically, I had 3 amazing teachers, and, Malone made sure that Scott taught me how to do like nice script lettering. Cause over there we did a lot of names. People would come in and want like their family name in Hawaiian and stuff. Just big script, across like I've kind of got a medium-sized arm compared to a lot of the guys there. Locals, some of them are real big. We have to do like Kanaka Viva Ole, family name across their arm. Have to draw it on with a pen to make sure it fit right and just tattoo it straight on and stuff. Scott taught me a lot about lettering and stuff. Malone taught me a lot about the basics of, like, here's a basketball-shaped rose, draw me 10 pages of roses tonight, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it would be a really, really good shop to apprentice under, really.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. The, it's just an incredible vibe, It's like, and it was also, there was times where it was kind of difficult. There was, like a few months into it, so Scott and Candy, Scott especially, he was really into scuba diving, and he got Candy involved in it. She really loved it. And they eventually convinced Malone to try it, and he fell in love with it. And so I think I started tattooing in like June of that year. I mean, they threw me like right in. You're going to tattoo. I moved there in April. I think May, I did my first tattoo on myself. In June, I was basically regular. And then in September of that year, if I remember right, they're like, well, we're going to go to Palau for a big scuba diving trip. So keep the shop open. whoa, by myself. It was like insane because I was like, oh, how do I do all this? And but it helped me in a lot of ways. After a couple weeks, they called and we're going to spend 2 more weeks. It's like, oh, Jesus,
Damn.
yeah,
Thrown in the deep end.
yeah, yeah, and it was intimidating, but at the same time, it really taught me a lot. And taught me to not shit my pants. Jeez.
Yeah, pretty
But
sure.
it was really amazing. And I mean, it was a shop that Malone really encouraged you to keep learning. And Candy was a great artist, and Scott, is like Scott is not only a really good artist, but he's also a really great technician. And they also taught me a lot about machines. Malone made his Rollo-matic liner and stuff. He didn't really like making shaders. So Scott made all the shaders with his Color King using a Jonesy Squareback, and sometimes I would help Malone with that, but that involved usually we'd get he used the Huck Spalding Supreme frame, and he'd cut it back. He'd drill out an area in the upright and stuff, and we'd use a jeweler saw to make the tube vise bigger and stuff. And the way we would drill out the thing was actually the upright. So we'd take a big extension cord all the way out to the front of the shop and just sit there with a chair and box full of frames. We had a Dremel with a drill attachment to it. We'd hold the machine in our hand and kind of just cut it back slowly and surely. I mean, I'm surprised I never slipped and just ripped my arm open or anything.
Yeah, holy shit.
But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun, So yeah, it was learning everything about it. It was like learning how to build machines and how to fix your own machine. Back then, we were also there wasn't any power supplies. This is '92, so we ran these big marine deep cycle batteries and stuff. And a rheostat, an Omite brand rheostat. It was the old panel with the rheostat and the dial, and you'd actually just solder wires to the thing, and that went into your your clip cord. And sometimes this side of the rheostat burned out right in the middle of the tattoo, so you got to immediately get up and resolder it and change all these things you had to learn how to do.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah,
It was fucking wild.
oh, it was nuts, But I'll tell you, working out those big batteries and stuff like that, the machines were just smooth.
Yeah.
Got to the point where we'd go to conventions. Malone eventually got me going to conventions. He and Scotty and I would go a lot. Scott loved conventions because he'd make 24 machines and bring them and sell them, right? And Scott was really meticulous, and still is meticulous about making his machines. Every machine he makes, he'll run for hours just to start breaking in, and he'll make sure he does at least one tattoo with the machine before he sells it. And so he's very particular about the power and everything. We go to these conventions, and it's this shitty power. You go to it's a convention center, and 500 tattooists are all plugging their machines in and their boombox and all this shit. It fluctuates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Eventually, what I started doing, I did this a couple times. I forget the first place I did it. We'd come to town a few days before the convention, and I'd always go to an auto supply place and buy a big fucking battery. And I'd just use the rheostat just there and do the convention. Worked great. Sometimes Scott would use it just to demo and stuff for people. And then after when the convention was closing, I'd go up to some of the local tattooists and go, "Hey, you want this car battery?" And just give it to them.
Yeah, wild.
It was great,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Barely being fucking used.
Yeah.
Yeah, tattooing run from a car battery. That's incredible, eh?
Oh, that was the best. Yeah, it was these. Because it was just flat power. You'll never have any surges or sags or anything like that. You put it on a trickle charger once every few weeks. That's fine.
Sick. That's awesome.
It was
I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a
That's
different
the way it
time.
was, Jen was running one until maybe a few years ago. Still, Jen Lee, who works here as well. She has. I think she might still have that big battery under her sink there. But yeah, they're great, best. I mean, now we have little pocket-sized batteries and stuff like that. They don't have the amperage though. Those the marine batteries, which were the speedboat batteries, basically.
Yeah.
They were 5 amps all the time, so the needle would always punch through. It didn't have that weakness of there's not enough power in amps, and So it always punched through. And like this machine, this power supply from Spain I have, that's the first one I found that actually runs 5 amps all the time.
Yeah, the Muso Toku.
Yeah, yeah.
I run one at my shop as well.
I love those things.
Yeah.
Sponsor me, Musutoku. No, but it's like one of the best power supplies I've used in years. There's a few others, of course, in the past, that some tattooists have built that are really just absolutely, legend. But yeah, I'm glad I have that now. I've run a bunch of different power supplies. They weren't really quite the same. Never as like a battery,
Yeah, the Muso Toku is supreme in my eyes too.
Yeah. And, I've used like the critical batteries, and I think it's great. They're definitely convenient, especially if you're going on a trip or your conventions or something. You can't beat that. But yeah, sometimes it's a little, and especially, or also like, you have a machine with a battery and you're tattooing someone's neck, you don't have to worry about a cord whipping in their face or anything like that,
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I just never, they just never did it for me, I'm not saying they're unusable because, there's tattooers that, can kick my ass artistically 5 times around the planet before I get anywhere close to what they do. And they're using batteries and stuff,
Yeah, I guess it's like just practiced.
Yeah. It's definitely the artist, not the equipment,
Doug, can you tell me about the photo next to the photo of Malone and your dad?
This one here, so that's when Tattoo City on Columbus Avenue opened in '91. That's my dad and Leo Zulueta, who I always felt like was, the brother I never had, and myself. And I used to be skinny, as you can see, and young. And yeah, that was a shot when the shop opened up, and my dad's wearing that old like bowling style shirt with Don Ed on it and stuff, and it was a really special time. At that time, I was down in the South Bay, living in Mountain View, California, and that was the time. That was when I was working in an office, Yeah, no tattoos on my arms. I had like my back shoulder, and this little one on my wrist of 2 little dragons that my dad did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was all I had then, I think. Maybe one is someone back of my leg by Malone. But yeah, that was a real special time.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's-
It was really something else. I mean, especially Leo coming and visiting too. I think he was in LA at that point. I think at that point he had Black Wave Tattoo there. And yeah, Leo was always really important to me. My dad started tattooing him in Realistic Tattoo. Maybe he was 76 or so. And Leo was just always really cool to me as a kid. In fact, he took me to my first concert when it was a couple months before my 11th birthday. We saw Devo at the Mabuhay Gardens right there, yeah. And at Mabuhay Gardens, which was this punk rock club and stuff.
Incredible.
And but it was 21 and over, right? And the doorman, this guy Dirk, was the guy that my dad tattooed, and Leo knew and stuff like that. And Leo was like, "Come on, Dirk, you know whose kid this is." Yeah, it was great,
That's sick, dude.
Yeah,
Holy.
It's all about who you know in the world, eh?
Yeah.
that's it.
21 and over. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But I was this little kid. They kept doing. This is '77, just after their first album. So they kept playing "Johnny Be Good" over and over again because I didn't realize it, but they were filming for a movie. I think it was for Dust Never Sleeps.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. So, and that was back when they had early Devo in their videos that you'd see. They had this one guy, this punk rocker with like, fake orange pink hair, and orange hair, and he would do like these, jarring moves, and then he'd suddenly do a backflip and land on his back on the concrete. That was, his thing. It was just like, I was there and stuff. God knows how many times he did it that night.
Yeah, jeez.
And they took a break, like in between the sets, and they went to their dressing room. And I just followed them. And I was like, "Hey, I'm a big fan," and stuff like that. And they were like, "Who's this kid?" But they were real nice. They were like, "Oh, well, thank you very much," and everything like that. I was like, "Hey, which one of you guys is Boogie Boy?" He's like, "Oh, usually, stuff like that." And I was like, God, I was one of those kind of kids. Like, "Hey, gee, mister, what are you doing?" I was like,
Oh, it's nice, though.
That's awesome.
They would have been like, this kid's 21?
right.
Holy.
Yeah, they were just like, "Who's this kid?" Or
Yeah.
How'd you get in here?
Yeah. He must be 21. He's 21 and over, right?
right.
Have a beer, kid.
It's
Yeah.
a punk rock club, though. Shit
Yeah.
happens like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's even cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad.
We
man.
just saw them in Brisbane
Yeah.
probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago at a Good Things Festival, it's called.
Yeah.
And
nice.
they were headlining, and we went and watched Devo.
Yeah, they're looking pretty
Great.
old.
Yeah, they're definitely
Yeah, you know.
they're getting on.
Yeah, you know, grandma's teeth will soon fit Willie, as Bob Roberts said. You know, none of us get
In
younger.
more ways than one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, none of us get any younger, you know.
For sure.
I mean, Jesus, I turned 58 early, you know, in July of this year, you know.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, but it beats the alternative, you know, so I'm
Sure.
okay with that, you know.
Yeah. Well, you don't look 58.
Both sides of my family have always had this real young look to them, you know. On my father's side, my dad, my grandfather Sam, on my mother's side, you know, my grandfather Jim Pena, he was an LAPD homicide detective. But he was real handsome, and they took him off as a beat cop, and they promoted him to detective. And originally first it was during the Black Dahlia murder, so he was part of that whole thing. And then basically he was like in the gangland department, like going after gangs and stuff. Whenever they arrest someone, they make him walk the perps out because he's real handsome. And also, he was Spanish, so they weren't like, yeah, see, we're not all white. You know, it was like, you know, that kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start working at Tattoo City?
So in 2008, my father retired. And then he started saying to me, it's like, well, there's a seat over there, you know, in San Francisco. If you ever want to come back home, you know, you can work in the shop. And I'd been in Minnesota for over 11 years. And eventually I realized, well, you know, all my family's in California. And none of us are getting any younger. And finally it would be great to work, you know, at Tattoo City. And, you know, my dad was retired. You know, he wasn't tattooing anymore, but I was still in his presence, and you know, it was just great to be here, you know. So October of 2009, yeah, so just over 15 years now.
Yeah, wow. It's a good solid stint.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Oh, that's cool, man.
How come, Doug, your dad gave up tattooing in 2008? Like, he was just
Well,
a bit
he'd
over
been
it?
tattooing for just about 42 years. I don't know, because I don't remember, because I was a baby. I don't remember if he tattooed starting in 66 or early 67. I was born in July of 66. But he'd been tattooing for, you know, almost 42 years. And the clothing line had happened, and it was exploding. And so that allowed him to retire. So he wanted to be able to say, hey, now I can paint my own things and, you know, just spend time with my friends and all that. So he still loved tattooing and everything. But, you know, he was like, I've done enough, you know. And he was able to focus more on his own paintings and all that.
That's interesting. You bring up the you brought up the like the clothing thing.
Yeah.
Because like in Australia we've got like an urban brand sort of thing called Culture Kings, and
I've actually heard of that one.
yeah, and they've just recently released like an Ed Hardy range.
There is the Ed Hardy brand is making a big comeback apparently. Like they're on Instagram. I've been following them. I tattooed a couple of the guys from there recently and stuff. And yeah, it's making kind of a comeback. I mean, I don't know the machinations of all the business end or anything like that, but it's neat seeing it come back. And you know, when it started, there was a lot of tattooists who were like, "What? Whoa, what is he doing? Ed Hardy's selling out." You know, and my dad said, you know, it's like, I'm not selling out, I'm cashing in. You know, I mean, he fucking worked hard enough. He you know, certainly deserved it.
Sure.
And to me, I loved it because it's like all of a sudden there's these people really loving this old Flash and stuff. I would also see, you know, someone walking down the street and be like, oh, that's that tiger my dad did when I was a kid. I love that thing. And when they started doing children's clothing, and kids really loved it because kids love tattoos, you know, and it's these great images, you know. Of course, it was successful, you know. And so I thought it was great. You know, it allowed my father to be able to have more freedom. The artwork was everywhere, so I loved it. You know, I just thought it was neat, you know. And now it's making a comeback, and I think a lot of that has to do with the kids who saw it, you know, the cool people when they were growing up wear it. Now they're old enough. And, you know, everything old is new again and stuff, so it's like a new fashion thing again.
Sure.
So I think it's neat, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. So have you guys got anything to do with that?
It's
like,
basically, my father licensed those images. You know, that's how it works. He didn't sell off anything. You know, all that stuff is still there. You know, my father and stepmother's rights and everything like that. And basically, Audiger, the original designer, apparently my dad said, like, when, he was signing all the paperwork, Audiger was like, oh, we'll make you famous. We'll take you to Milan and do all this. And my dad was just like, just pay me. That's, he didn't want to be in this spotlight. He's an artist. He's like, yeah, that's great. And that's why Audiger kind of took it upon himself to become the face of Ed Hardy and stuff, which is weird. He had this massive ego and stuff. He was a marketing genius.
Sure.
But then he went too far. He started selling, selling offshoot rights. There was like remote control cars and, incense. And, at one point, they made a prototype of a hookah, and it was like all these tattoo designs sculpted on it. It looked real bitchin', but my dad was like, no, we don't want anything to do with smoking. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So I think it's still in storage at my dad's place. But yeah, it just went too far. And then Audiger, there was this reality show with these, I think it was this couple with like, I don't know, like 8 or 11 kids or something. Is reality TV was even weirder then than it is now. And there was this big messy divorce, and it turned out the father was a real scumbag. And Audiger, for some reason, was like, yeah, we'll make him part of the new lineup and stuff. And people were like, all right, fuck that, and dropped it. And, it just went out of style in certain areas. Like, from what I remember, in Australia and in India, it was still big for longer than it, was here. But now it's making a comeback. It never went away, but now it's slowly making a comeback. I mean, at one point, what was it? At one point, I remember being told that there was Ed Hardy perfumes, and they were selling more than Coco Chanel stuff at Macy's, one of the big things. Yeah, stuff. It was like, yeah, it was nuts.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I even I was gifted like many years ago for my birthday like an Ed Hardy perfume with like a tiger on it.
Yeah.
And I had it on my desk for years.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and I'd like if I felt like I was a bit stinky or something, I'd be like, fucking freshen up,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I don't know, it's fascinating. It's interesting. By sort of parting with leasing out the images.
Yeah.
That's so smart, right?
Yeah, I mean, because my dad learned his lesson because Malone and my dad had a lot of the Sailor Jerry artwork, right? And then the Sailor Jerry clothing brand was started by these guys. And basically, instead of licensing, Malone sold the rights. And that's why it just went away. And eventually, and that got sold, and now it's the rum. And they're my dad and Francesca really fought and to make sure that, there was a big payout and stuff for, I think Candy, I think Malone had died at that point. Make sure that people were taken care of and stuff, But yeah, it's like the Jerry stuff, I think the rights are you can still do books with, part of the collection. Malone could do books with the collection. That's where the Sailor Jerry Flash books came from. My dad was like, yeah, we'll put up this Flash and everything in book form. Malone was like, great, people will come and buy the sheets for me. But I don't think they can do it on anything else. That's why there's, Sailor Jerry rum is still one of the high-end, purchase-wise, popularity-wise, one of the high-end. I think Captain Morgan is the only, number one, and Sailor Jerry is number two. At least I heard that years ago. I don't know what it is now. So that's why it's like that. I mean, even Jerry, what's funny is Sailor Jerry's secret recipe. Jerry didn't drink,
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
I mean, it's I just know from friends and everything. But yeah, Jerry didn't drink. So all that this was his secret blend and all that. It's just marketing bullshit.
Did he ever brew spirits or anything?
No.
Okay,
okay.
He had nothing to do with booze.
Nothing to do with
Interesting.
that. Yeah, apparently, yeah, my dad said, he just didn't drink at all.
Smoked a lot, but
Yeah.
Horry smoky.
smoky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I met Jerry when I was really, really little. I barely. All I remember is this, big guy with a laugh, and and his son was kind of shitty to me. So he was a little older than me. I was
really?
it's like, I mean, that was a trip to Hawaii when I was I was either 4, maybe 5. Yeah. So what I remember, we also went to the Big Island. So I remember seeing like the big, you know, dried lava and stuff near the volcanoes. That's what I remember. You know, it's like, yeah, you're a little kid, this thing. But yeah.
Do you have any contact with those guys anymore, or like with
No.
Jerry's son? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, last time I saw Jerry's son, he came and he got his first tattoo from Candy Everett. This must have been like 93 or maybe 94. He got a kind of a cartoon of two cows fucking. He was moving to Wisconsin or something like that. And he's like, well, I might as well get, you know, gonna be in Wisconsin and stuff. He's kind of this big nerdy guy. Yeah, that's all, you know.
Okay. It's interesting.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Holy, it's cool you got to meet him though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Can we talk about like the with the rum, because that was somewhat hijacked from
Oh yeah.
like Sailor Jerry didn't even drink, so then like they're kind of cashing in on this idea that
Right.
he probably wouldn't have even agreed to.
Yeah, I
potentially.
mean, Jerry was not about publicity, you know, ever. Yeah, he refused to be interviewed by anyone and stuff. Get the fuck out of here and all that. It just really irked him. But you know, Malone had these great sheets, all this Jerry Flash and everything that he bought. You know, when Jerry passed, you know, I think Malone paid an outrageous amount of money at the time for the shop and all the stuff to Louise, Jerry's wife. You know, she's like, you know, Jerry said, yeah, ask, you know, you have to pay, sell it for this much. That would take care of her for years and years and years and years. So he just had all this flash, and you know, and it's like, so I don't know who came to him about the whole clothing brand, but that it blew up. I mean, Sailor Jerry clothing was really, really big for a long time. So, yeah, and it was, but eventually it was wild, you know, seeing like when the rum came around, it was wild seeing like, you know, big billboards with like, oh, there's that hula girl I've tattooed like a dozen times and stuff. It was wild to me, you know. That was the first introduction to like, you know, the fashion world and all that, you know, before the Ed Hardy brand stuff came up. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though, because of the Sailor Jerry rum. Like now, younger people are kind of that don't know much about tattooing and stuff. Like I'll say, you know, like I'll bring up something about Sailor Jerry, and they go, like oh, what, like from the rum? And you're
Right,
like, no.
right.
Like
Well, I
they
mean-
know him now from the rum more than like
Yeah.
the tattooing or the flash.
Right. I mean, there was like when the Ed Hardy brand became a big thing. So I was working in Minnesota at the time, and I remember, you know, people coming into the shop and stuff. And, you know, maybe I had an Ed Hardy shirt. And it's like, oh man, I've heard of that guy. You know, and someone was like, yeah, I heard actually Ed Hardy's a woman, and all, you know, all these weird rumors. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, sure, you know. And there was one that's like, oh, no, he's my father. Like, yeah, bullshit. You know, it's like, all right. You know, it's like, I don't give a fuck, you know. Yeah, I mean, that happens in every time with, you know, something becomes a thing. It was like when Ink Master came out, right?
Sure.
Was it aired directly to you guys? And eventually, I'm assuming there was an Ink Master Australia and stuff like that. I know they did that in Europe.
I don't even think they've done an Ink Master Australia, but we did get it, yeah.
Yeah. At one point, you know, I mean, you remember, it was eventually, well, first it was Miami Ink, before Ink Master even. That's what I'm thinking of. And they'd have this show, like every week is someone, oh, I want this thing. And it's like this big, deep, meaningful stuff. And it was obviously a tattoo that took like 5 or 6 sessions. And it was like, make sure you wear the same clothes so it looks like you got it in a few hours and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I remember the two things I remember was one time 2 guys came into the shop. I was working at the shop, the Ink Lab in Minneapolis, which is still there. It's started and owned and operated by David Detloff, who was really kind to take me in over there. I really appreciate him. And we were in the lobby just like people, oh, we just want to check it out. And it's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And we're sitting there, and I heard one of the guys say, you know, I've always kind of wanted a tattoo, but I don't know anyone who died. Because they all thought they had to be memorial tattoos and stuff, because there were so many fucking memorial tattoos on Miami Ink. I was like, oh my God. You know?
You're only allowed one.
And then later, when I was working in another shop, Uptown Tattoo in Minneapolis, I was working with Tom Strom. And, you know, Tom was like, he was one of those guys that, okay, it's 6 months before you can get the consultation with him. You do the consultation, and then it's going to be a few more months before you get the tattoo, right? And I remember a guy came in and was like, had waited all this time. Yeah, I want to get this sleeve, and it was like a really cool idea. And Tom was like, yeah, I'm really into it and stuff like that. And the guy said, like, so it'll take like 5 or 6 hours. And Tom was like, no, this is like, first off, we're not going to start for like 3 months, and it's probably going to take around a year of you coming back and stuff. And the guy thought, because he saw it on TV, that's how it was. I don't know.
Unrealistic expectations like provided to us, provided the public from these fucking TV execs.
Yeah, but I mean that's all TV. You know, it's like everyone has, you know, every woman has big tits and every guy is like, you know, chisel jawed and all that shit.
Yeah,
fucking bullshit.
It's interesting though, eh?
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's entertainment, you know. But you know, whatever, you know. I mean, I was on one of the reality shows. Ink Master had an offshoot for a while called Ink Master Angels. And so on Ink Master one season, Kelly Doty was on there. God, she's a phenomenal tattoo artist. And it was this funny thing that Kelly and I started getting to know each other because we were on these forums for this stupid comedy website. It's still there. They just had their 25th anniversary. I'm still on it 20 years later. And she would just do like this funny art, and it was really good. And one time she said something in the forum, and I messaged her. I said, "Hey, are you learning how to tattoo?" And she's like, "Yeah." And eventually, now she's like fucking phenomenal. She was on Ink Master. She was really serious. She was just killing it. But she didn't win. There was this weird thing where they asked the Twitter audience, like, okay, who are these people who are going to kick off? Like at the last thing, like she did this big back piece for it. They never even showed it. And she killed it. But we kept in contact and stuff. And then one time she said, hey, can I talk to you something, but you can't talk to anyone about it? Yeah, sure. She got a hold of me. And she goes, okay, we're under NDA, but me and a couple of these other people who are on Ink Master, these 2 other women, we're going to be on an offshoot called Ink Master Angels, where we go to a different city every episode, blah, 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 blah. And can we possibly come and do one of the episodes at Tattoo City? It would basically kind of legitimize the show, right? It was like, I never wanted to be on Ink Master. They actually contacted me multiple times when I was in Minnesota. Hey, can you want to be a contestant? I was like, no, I'll be a guest judge, but I'm not going to live in New York City for months, you know? And so it was like, she was a friend, so I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, let's do it. My dad agreed. Yeah, sure, that's no problem. And it was this whole ordeal. It's like, it was 4 days. You know, I had to come in for the first day. I had to get here at 6 a.m. so they could set everything up in here. Then the competition and stuff, and then they had to shut down, set everything down. So I was here from like, I got here at 5:30 in the morning, left at like 11:30 at night. Then I had to draw for like a 3-hour tattoo on someone's torso and stuff. And it was, you know, I mean, I have to respect all the people who make that show because Jesus, the crew. I mean, yeah, they're working like, you know, 14, 16-hour days. I don't know how they do it. Wow. But it was neat because it wasn't rigged. Like it was an actual contest. Like, so none of those shows like, oh, they know who's the winner. They don't. But they did like, okay, we guys want to talk, you know, you guys want to talk shit about each other and stuff like that. You know, it's like, it was funny because like the 2 people I was competing against, like, because I was really, oh, hey, welcome to the shop, da-da-da, you know, and stuff. Because I'm like that with anyone who walks in here and stuff. And one of the guys said, I don't want to talk shit about him. He's too nice. And I was like, oh, just... I was like, well, just, you know, it's TV. Just, you know, say I'm riding on my father's coattails or something. Fuck it. You know, I don't care.
He's a fucking prick.
That whole shit, you know. And like, and they do, you know, so they film that day, and the next day another contest, and the third day they were supposed to come to our houses and see what we do off tattooing and stuff. And also that was the day where like, okay, we're going to come to this area and we're going to do all the B-roll stuff. So wear the same clothes you did on the first day. Because that's the thing is like, so this guy's coming in and he's got this new school thing. And I don't know what he's going to, you know, all that kind of like shit that they splice in. And yeah, the second day, like, because there's 3 artists. The first day, one guy was eliminated. Second day, I was eliminated. It was fine. And then the fourth, yeah, well, it's like, I don't care. And the fourth day, it was the thing was then the 2 artists who were kicked out, they were part of the judging team for the final thing, right? And the prize for being on Ink Master Angels, if you won, is like, okay, you're a contestant on Ink Master in the next season of Ink Master. And and
What the hell?
it was like, yeah, but if there was ambitious people who really good tattooists who knew how to work that,
Yeah.
that have made great careers. I mean, it's a huge launching platform.
Oh yeah, yes.
And so the last day, the main producer showed up and was like, "Oh, hey, I saw your roles. I think people are really going to dig you and stuff like that." And I was like, "Great." I said, and I told her, I said, "Yeah, I mean, if there was a chance I would have won, like, I would have been like, yeah, I'm going on Ink Master." And as soon as the cameras are off, like, I'm not going to fucking New York. Tell them I broke my leg or something. Like,
For sure.
because it's like. People don't realize this, but you are contractually obligated to be in this apartment around New York for up to 3 months.
Oh my
While I
god.
filmed it. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do
It's
that.
brutal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a I don't know. It's a big ask, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the people who do those shows because it's fucking nuts, and frankly, it's a lot of spotlight on you too.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we're all tattooists. We have to have a certain level of ego and stuff like that, sure. But it's like, and especially nowadays, I do not envy the younger generation of tattooists who have to do all the, like, song and dance shit on social media and stuff. It's like a second or third job, and it's just a lot for people. And I've seen some people where it just kind of made them go a little nuts and everything. So
Yeah, well, it is hard. Like, this, like we never took, like, I've been tattooing a little while now, and like when I first started tattooing, I didn't take on that responsibility of this, of how the internet is now, and like the process to continue to be busy.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's a really interesting thing that we've all had to adopt this other full-time job.
Yeah.
And that clients or people who are using Instagram or TikTok or whatever for recreational use, they can just like be at their fingertips. They can contact us in like a split second.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, when Instagram first came around, I have to admit, like, I think it's been a long time. I forget what year it started, but I was on it within the first like couple months and stuff, and it was great because back then it was just like, here's a photo, that's it, little caption if you want, and then someone oh, they're on there, and I'd find like a couple tattooists. Well, who do they follow, and who's following them? And that's how I got in contact with Ani eventually, and it was really neat because you'd run into all these people, some who had nothing to do with your thing, but sometimes there was I made a bunch of friendships that way and stuff. Now it's like really like gaming. Here's how to beat the algorithm, and here's like selling shit and all this, like, Jesus Christ, it was great when it was pure, when it was just like, here's a fucking photo. Then then was it Vine came in, which was a 3-second video clip thing, and they started doing those, and then now videos are longer and you can do live. That's neat, but I think simpler is better. When it comes to that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That logo was a camera.
Yeah. It was a little what are those called? Those Instamatics or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like-
This is Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's-
It's kind of annoying. I feel like even when I first started producing artwork on it, it was way more geared towards just photos and like
Yeah.
it was way easier to stand out and like now it's just really gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Everyone's like
I know that you
dancing.
can't even see the people you follow. They shove shit in
yeah.
your face and everything like that.
Yeah. You'll see
Everyone-
like 50 million other people that you don't even follow. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point of following them? I'm not going to see them.
Yeah. I don't give a shit. It's like, oh, well, I mean, that's all social media. It's all geared towards like, now it's like AI is scraping everything and all that. It's like, fucking hate that shit. It's just plagiarism machines that take up as much power as like China. I mean, literally all the AI and Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it takes more power than like, I think like 4 or 5 different countries combined.
What?
That's the big dirty secret. Is not only is it like plagiarism bullshit that's ripping everyone off, it's also like hellacious for the environment and stuff like that.
Really?
So, it's bad. It's
What
like, and
on
it's taking
earth?
up massive amounts of water to cool all these things
Okay.
and stuff as well. And I think it's either Google or Microsoft is buying 3 Mile Island, the old decommissioned nuclear power plant here in America, and they're going to start it up to make power for all these servers and stuff again.
Sure.
Jesus
Wild.
fucking Christ. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting. May I ask who this gentleman is with his shirt off?
That is Tom DeVita showing off the tattoo, the big dragon tattoo my dad did on him just then.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. And DeVita, the reason I have these photos up is that DeVita taught Malone. Malone taught me. So
Okay.
I was, I'm in that lineage. There's 500 Lallers, Lal Hardy.
Yes.
I really love Lal. Lal is one of those great tattooists. He always kind of joked like, oh, my Uncle Ed, my cousin Doug and stuff. And I've always really loved Lal. I think I met him when my dad and I first took our first big father-son trip to London in 1980. We were going to go for 2 weeks, ended up spending 5. That's where I met Lal and stuff. And he's one of those artists that, Lal's been at this for, I think he started in like 77 or 78. He's been at it a long time, but he's not static. He's always moved on and learned new things and has more styles and everything like that. Super positive, like, he just loves tattoos, tattoo history, everything like that. And he's never been like the sourpuss old man, like, oh, these kids these days or anything like that. He's great. New Wave Tattoo is such a great job. Lal is such an amazing artist and everything like that. So, yeah. So I love Lal. Had to have that up there.
He seems like he's got a great sense of humor from his Instagram.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
funnier than a rubber crutch. It's like he's great. He's just absolutely hilarious. And a great artist and a great historian and stuff. And yeah, I have enormous respect for Lal,
Yeah. Damn, it's insane. You guys share a last name as well.
Yeah. It was Lal started this whole thing. He's like doing this little thing of like all the Hardys and tattooing. There's Rose Hardy and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all part of the same clan. None of us are related, but it's like it's like yeah, let's go and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to talk about, man?
I was going to talk about Hardy marks. It's kind of cool, like all these collections of like famous tattooers throughout history, whether it's Rosie Camango or Sailor Jerry. It's cool that that's come about and like we can have those on our shelves as well.
Yeah.
How did that get started?
My father always wanted to legitimize tattooing. He wanted to make sure that people knew that tattooing is art with a capital A. It's not just some, go down a shitty alley and go, see this guy who smells like wine to do a tattoo. He was always about that. He was always about the tattoo history, and he always wanted to elevate tattooing. So he decided to do Tattoo Time. That was the first Hardy Marks publication in '82. And he and Francesca, my mom, and Leo worked on it. There was a bunch of things, and they worked their asses off and, pasting everything up because there's no digital printing back then, worked really hard and put out the first issue. And it really was, I think maybe Outlaw Biker or something would do an occasional like tattoos of Outlaw Biker, but there was no tattoo magazine out there. So it was the first tattoo magazine, and it was historic, it was historical information and also shining a spotlight on what tattooing is now. It's not just old shit. Here's like, the thing with new tribalism, that photo of, I think it was Ron Darth who had the big Samoan-style tribal legs with a big red snake on one and blue snake on the other that my dad did and stuff. And in the tattoo world, it was like a bomb went off. It was like, whoa, holy shit. And they worked really hard at it. And, eventually it branched out. There was a second issue, and eventually they started doing other books. Francesca put out a book on Candy Darling, who was a roommate of hers back in New York. Candy was a trans woman in the early 60s. I think the Velvet Underground had a song about her and stuff. So it was not just tattooing, but it was all about tattoo history, and it just kept going on with new books, and my father wanted to make sure that these people were known about and stuff. And it's this amazing source, and now they sold it to Taki of State of Grace Tattoo, and he's doing a great job with it. He started reprinting some of the books. He reprinted the Dragon Tattoo book,
Yes.
which was like great because that book, like, it's the definitive dragon, book on tattooing dragons and stuff. And it was been out of print for so long. It's like, oh, you can find this beat up copy for $500. But my dad was always wanted things to be like very democratic. It's like he put up books like the Sailor Jerry Flash books. I think they were $100, right? But there was like 40 pages of Jerry Flash. And if you're like, as a collector, just a fan, wow, this is great. And as a tattooist, you can use it, do one tattoo off of it. You've made your money back, and the rest is gravy. Yeah, he just wanted to make sure that the stuff was accessible. It wasn't like $200 books. There's only 50 copies, nothing like that. He wanted to really make sure that, it was for the people, because tattoos are for the people. It's a glorified folk art in ways. I mean, sure, there's plenty of corporate stuff that now, like suppliers that aren't tattooists, convention, people who run conventions that have nothing to do with tattooing. Of course, shops that are run by people who don't tattoo. But he wanted to make sure that it was, that tattooing still was by tattooists and for tattooists and such, and anyone else who was interested in it. So Hardy Marks was really, really amazing. And, my dad and mom worked really fucking hard on it. Pandemic came around. I'll be honest, I had big mental health issues and stuff. I got behind on a lot of book orders. It was all my fuck up, and which I'm ashamed of. But it's in really great hands now, and I'm glad to see what they're doing. In fact, the next thing that's coming out is there's 2 books coming out that are new from Hardy Marks. One is Tattoo Time, The Hardy Hits, which is like reprints of certain articles, and also a great interview with my stepmother, Francesca, about, the woman behind the man, so to speak, and talking about the history there. And then they're doing a new book that's supposed to come out really soon on Leo Zulueta, who really has, there's needed to be a book about him for a long time. He's one of the most important tattooers in a genre, I think. I mean, when he started doing tribal, that was real punk rock shit back in the 80s. And now it's like, it's everywhere. It's part of the cultural milieu all over the world and stuff,
Yeah, it's sick.
It's sick because they've started, coming into Australia as well. We've now got like the Sydney Tattoo Book Club, is it?
Yeah.
Sydney Tattoo Book Club, it's called, and they're stocking all the Hardy Marks,
Great.
and like all the like Pinky Yun's book and everything.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Pinky was one of my dad helped with it, but I think that was like before Taki had Hardy Marks. That was one of his.
Okay.
Yeah, because he put out books. He did that Bob Roberts book.
Yes.
And he did a bunch of things like that. But now it's like, there's that. And I love the fact that they're becoming available again. Francesco told me, it's like, we'd haul all these books. We went to like book conventions, where you're like, here's our publishing place and here's this. And if everyone was like, whoa, holy shit. No, it was like, or, this is back in the early 80s and stuff. And she would haul, there's a big Japanese bookstore here, Kinokuniya Books, which is a branch of this huge Japanese bookstore in Japan and New York. They have a bunch of different branches. They took this stuff in and they were like, oh, tattoos. No, it's like, it was hard sell for a long time. She went all over the place with those books. She hauled them all over the place. It was a lot of fucking work, but they did great. They did really great. I mean, Hardy Marks books, they're the gold standard, and there's a lot of great tattoo publishers out there now. That's for sure. Yellow Brick Press and Scorpion Front and all these things are doing some great books. And some of those big flash books that I remember, there was one on that I did a sheet on that Ross Nagel from Ireland. I'm blanking on the name of his shop. I'm sorry, Ross. But he put out one. He's in Limerick, Ireland, which is known as a tough city, and one of the nicknames of Limerick is Stab City. So he had all these people do
yes,
I've got Stab City book. And I did a sheet. It's supposed to be like knives and all that. So those are great books. It's fun.
Yeah, it is incredible. Yeah, those big flash books when they get a bunch of tattooers sort of involved.
Yeah, I think a lot of the the real big expensive books. I think that time is over in a way. COVID came, businesses dropped down. A lot of publishers, they just out of business now. But I think Hardy Marks being back is again back to the the affordable, easily accessible tattoo books, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from that. Other publishers as well.
Have you guys got anything to do with that, or any say?
I mean, yeah, there's say Taki is very respectful and everything, and he'll talk to Francesca about it's like we're thinking of doing this and stuff like that. It's from what I understand. So
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important too. It's important to have something that's like tangible. Return to that. But yeah, I think we might be up on time.
Yeah, it's an hour and 20 minutes or almost. Or
it's not
bad.
Like
that.
Yeah.
I can talk for hours. So
that's good, man.
I'm long-winded. Jesus, my ADHD is like that. That's why I'm jumping from subject to subject all the time.
No,
Sorry,
fine.
That's okay.
It's
all right.
It's why we don't have like a proper structure or anything. It's interesting seeing where it goes. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Doug, and thank you for having us. And
thanks for
Tattoo
flying
City.
all this way just to see me and no one else in America.
No one else, just you.
Yeah,
It's been.
But no, seriously, I'm really glad you guys came. It's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, we had to.
We wanted to come to this special shop and absorb a bit of the magic within its walls before it was no longer. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you, Doug.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any last words or anything you want to plug?
I mean, I'll still be in the Bay Area. I'll announce my Instagram is Tattoos by Doug Hardy. I will announce on there where I will end up being. And my only piece of advice is just keep true to tattooing, because tattooing will treat you well if you treat it well. I mean, it's an old saying, so to speak, but it's absolutely true. I mean, I've been at this for a long time. I've grown up around it. I've seen a lot of changes, but I think it's a great time for tattooing, even though everywhere in the world is really slow right now. That's just the world economy, because capitalism is shit. It's still a great time, and I keep hoping that people love tattooing as much as I do.
Wise words.
Wise words. On that, rats get fat.
Goodbye.
Let's finalize.
All right.